Mind Gap Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin, and we are so excited for you to be here tonight. We are so excited to bring this show to you. And we did it, Doug. We did it.
We did
We didn't overthink it. We just did it.
That's
I'm
right.
so excited that we did it. Excited to be here. Excited to bring the show. I'm excited we did it. I'm excited we got Moon Silhouette on the chat right now.
That's right. Moon in the chat. Two other mystery people.
Ooh.
We're excited.
Show yourselves, mystery people.
That's right.
I want to see you. Want to hear you.
I want to be you. Maybe.
I want to be you.
I don't know.
Yeah. Reveal who you are, and then we'll see if we want to
Tell
be you.
me your circumstances, and I'll do an Ask Practical Doug situation where I'll see whether or not I want to be in your circumstances, because that's just a practical situation. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what? You could be one of those mystery people, too, if you're listening to this. You know that? You could. If you're watching this after the fact, we stream this on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central at youtube.com/mindgappodcast. Be a part of the show!
And if you're listening to the audio version of this, then you really are a mystery person, because Seven says I am revealed.
I knew it!
You knew. It's got Moon and Seven.
That's right. We figured out who it was, because at first it was just a little bit of intrigue. You know? We've got people hiding in the shadows, watching.
Two anonymous people. Hiding in the shadow of the moon.
And yet they didn't want to reveal themselves. Why? And then, just like that, he revealed himself! And it's cool.
It's Seven!
Yep, it was good.
I like how Moon is in the chat. They've got their own soundboard.
I know, right?
They're just putting asterisk, fart, asterisk.
And waves.
Yeah. And waves. I'm so here for this. I love it.
Me
I
too.
absolutely love it. Text to sound.
That's awesome. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Anyway, very excited to be here. We've got a great show for you, full of lots of good stuff, thoughtful things as usual.
Yeah.
You know,
we've prepared tonight, which is different.
We were pensive about this. You know, it was thoughtful, putting all of putting all of our thought eggs into the basket of the universe. And, you know, and we're waiting for those eggs to hatch.
Right.
You know,
we may extract one and make a thought omelet for you. You know, when you make an omelet, do you add cream to it? There's a big debate that goes on about this.
Ooh, this is good. I used to think that you had to add milk for a long time. When I was growing up, it was like a tablespoon for every egg that you put in. Oh, and then for a little bit, I thought it was water, and then I got to the point where I just don't put anything in it, and it works just fine. I've heard various things. I think my understanding is that I think most, I don't know how to say this without sounding, disintegrating is not the word. Patronizing, condescending. Okay. There we go. You know?
There it is. Okay.
It's like, without disintegrating you, is that I think the pros don't put any liquid in there.
See, Gordon Ramsay makes his with
creme
cream.
fraiche.
Yes.
Yeah. For the floofiness.
So, yeah, it says it makes it. I don't know. I don't. I've had them both ways. I enjoy them both ways, but typically I don't. I don't add any liquid to mine. I'll put a little bit of butter in the bottom of the pan, but that's about it. You know,
I do a little bit of olive oil in the pan.
A little bit of olive oil. There you go.
And then fry them up that way. And I honestly, it's just like an extra step. I'm like, I don't need this. It's fine.
Do you normally do scrambled eggs, or you do Sunday set up? What's your preferred method of egg? Here,
well,
let me ask you this: what's your preferred method when you're making them versus when you go out and order them? Because
great question.
I'm different.
Well, it also depends on where you order them from, because some places, do them, different ways. Personally, I think scramble is just the quickest way to do it. Just like them, scramble up real quick, bing, bang, boom, you're done. Put them on your plate, eat them up. I personally like an over easy egg, but the way I like to do it now, because I used to screw this up. I didn't screw it up, but I just found better ways to do it, which is you get the egg in the pan, right?
Yeah.
And then you just, you cook it for a little bit until the whites get set, and they're not, not even that much. Just you put them in the pan, you put a little bit of water in there to steam it, and you cover it, and you let the steam cook the egg, and then you don't have to flip them. And they come out until just once the whites are set, they're not snotty anymore. And then you pop them out and you bing, ba, boo, ba, ba. You know what I mean?
So you don't flip your eggs at all. The steam cooks the tops, and it gets the consistency of an over easy, but you're not flipping them. That's a cool hack. I never knew that.
Because I ran into a lot of problems where I'd flip it, and no matter how careful I was, not all the time, but you run the risk of breaking the egg.
100%, yeah.
So
and then you've just got a fried egg. That's once the yolk snaps. How do you do? I'm curious because it's fun if you go online and just look how to make scrambled eggs. You will get as many links as there are on the internet. You'll get that many ways to make scrambled eggs. You put it in a cold pan and you let the eggs come up to heat. You put it in a hot pan. You do it in low simmer. You do it with cream. You do it with all these different. So what is if you're making me scrambled eggs in the morning after we've cuddled? What is your method?
Well, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't make you scrambled eggs. What I would do is I would make you, I'd start out by toasting some sourdough bread. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Sourdough
bread. Homemade sourdough?
In a perfect world, sure. Never made it before, but we'll assume that I just made it. All right? Okay. So I toast up some toast for you, some sourdough bread. Okay? I chop up your favorite thing, some mushrooms. Okay? I chop them up.
You know me so well.
About 7 ounces, right? I put them in the pan, season them with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. That salt will pull out the moisture, get it wet. And then, let that cook down for about 4 minutes. And then I'm going to spoon out.
Showing some signs of being fucking wet.
I was late on it, but yeah.
No, it's still there. So I spoon out 2 nice heaping spoonfuls of pesto. I put it in the pan. I scrape Jesus, words are failing me tonight. Mushrooms. I was like, tomatoes, potatoes, mushrooms. Scrape the mushrooms to the side. Put the pesto in there. Then I take 3 eggs, plop them in on top of the pesto. I cover the pan. I cover it up, and I let the steam. You just really cook those eggs, and then toast on the plate. I get the eggs on the toast with some mushrooms, a little bit of crushed red pepper. Pop, 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 pop. Bam. There you go.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite breakfasts to make. I love it.
Now, I don't like mushrooms, but everything else sounds delicious.
Also, you can do it without the mushrooms.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
There you go.
Now, back to my actual question. Yeah. How the fuck do you make scrambled eggs?
Oh, that's easy. So I start with some sourdough toast, okay? Are we caught in a loop? So I do... it's really easy. I throw however many eggs I want to do, whisk them up, preheat.
So you're a whisker?
Yeah. Well, I take a fork.
Because I know some people who crack them in the pan and they'll break them up and start moving them around in the pan, and that's how they scramble them.
I like to mix them together and put salt in there with it to mix up to get the salt in there while
samesies, because that actually helps break down the protein and helps make them fluffier. Yes.
Because I also want an even distribution of yellow throughout, just because I don't personally care, but whatever, just for the sake of it. So I'll mix it up first, and then I'll heat up the pan, preheat it, put a little bit of olive oil in there, throw it in there, and then bang bang boom, maybe throw some cheese on there if you're feeling cheesy, and then done. I make Natalie a scrambled egg every morning before school. Yeah. So I got
that's
this down to a
science. The same as I'm going. Yeah. I put a little butter in instead of olive oil. I could easily replace that with olive oil. I don't really give a shit, but same thing. I whisk it, a little salt as I'm whisking, throw it in the pan, medium heat, let it slow and steady, and then you got it. You got a good thing going. I usually like to I like a little dill in mine. I like throwing a little bit of dill on there. That's just my personal
I remember
taste.
You doing when we worked at assignment desk, you were like, tell me there's this dill cheese that I absolutely needed to try. And I think I tried it.
Was it cheese curds from Wisconsin?
Maybe that may have been it.
Back?
It was something like that. And you were like, dude, I realized that. I'm like, you can keep your deal and keep your dill. I'm fine. Yeah? I don't need a little bit goes a long way with me. Where I've had some, I'm like, that's powerful. That's some powerful stuff right there.
I wonder if you've got a similar thing with dill as some people have with cilantro, where they're like, you know what I mean? Like some people have that where they think cilantro tastes soapy. Mm-hmm. You're either a cilantro person or not.
I don't know if I've honestly don't know if I've actually tried cilantro before. Like, I'm not against trying it, but
that surprises me with as much cooking as you do that you've never come across a recipe that calls for it.
I mean, it may have, but I just don't have it on hand, so I just don't use it. I may just leave it out.
The problem I always find with cilantro is that you buy it. And that's the thing. I need like a handful of cilantro, like a palmful of it, and then the rest of it just goes. I make that one dish and I'm not going to make it the next night. So that cilantro just sits. So my problem with buying cilantro is that I buy it, I use maybe a quarter of it, and then it's just the rest of it just sits until I finally have the willpower to throw it.
Because you got to put it in a cup, like you got to put it together in a thing of water in the fridge, and the water will keep it fresh.
You got to use it.
Well, that too, you got to use it.
So you got to use it eventually. It only keeps it fresh for so long.
Yeah.
Moon asked, have we ever tried poached eggs? Personally, I love poached eggs on toast. My grandfather, it's one of the first things I used to cook. I learned to cook with him is he would do poached eggs, do toast, butter on the toast, pop the egg on there, salt and pepper, and you just smush up the poached egg, and you can, if you want to get fancy, throw avocado on there or whatever you want to do. But that was childhood to me, sitting in my grandfather's kitchen eating poached egg on toast. I love that.
I love a poached egg. I just don't like taking the time to do it.
Yeah.
It's extra effort.
I got an egg poacher. So I don't do the boiling water with little vinegar in there and you swirl it around. I do the cheap way, right? You crack it into the egg poacher, you got water underneath, and let it boil, and for 2.5 minutes later, you're good.
Nice.
Very easy. Yeah.
I also very much like hard-boiled eggs, but
I do too.
I don't like going through the process of making them.
Hard-boiled eggs are a bitch to make. It's easy, but it's just like you got to watch them. You got to take them off at the right time. You got to plunge them.
Yeah, you got to put them in the ice bath, and it's just like, man. And then you got to peel them. Like it's just. Yeah. I love a hard-boiled egg. It's just kind of a pain in the ass. I used to do that for a while. That was like when I was early on with my diet and stuff like that. I was like, hard-boiled eggs all day, baby. I was like, God, this fucking sucks. Like, I'll be into a recipe for a while, but then I'm like, man, this is really time-intensive. Now, I'm pre-making like some breakfast. I make these breakfast sandwiches. It's I make sheet pan eggs, which is awesome.
You just cut off like squares and you're
so
good.
I have like a little recipe that's got like eggs. It's got cottage cheese. It's got cheddar cheese. It's got Parmesan Reggiano, some seasoning in there. Mix it all together, put it on a sheet pan with parchment, and I cook it for like 8 to 10 minutes. Come out, it's all just a sheet. And then I cut them up, and then I do lean ground beef with some turkey sausage. I mix that together into patties to make little sausage patties, and I season them accordingly, fry those up, and then I put the egg, some provolone cheese, the sausage on an Jesus Christ, English muffin. Wrap those up in the freezer
all night. I got you.
I know you got me. I wrap those up, put them in the freezer, and then bam, microwave them in the morning. Good to go.
That's easy, man.
Yeah.
So you literally prep all the way up to. You're not assembling them in the morning. You're pulling them out, putting them heating them up, and you're good.
Yeah.
That's smart. I got to get more into meal prep. I think that's a big thing.
It's huge.
I have an aversion. I'm all for leftovers, but I much prefer something when it's cooked fresh. So my problem with meal prep is it just never tastes quite as good as when you cook it day of. I'm thinking like if I'm making something, if I'm prepping on a Sunday and I'm eating this thing on a Friday, I don't know. It's been sitting in the fridge all week and I'm heating it up. It just doesn't, it's a tough sell for me.
Yeah, it's all good. I think you got to find the right things because some things last really well. Some things are like, these are good for 2 days.
Yeah.
And then, so on and so forth. It's important that we read this chat message from Seven. It says, I must bid you adieu. Justin, we will have words later. Doug informed me that you don't think my voice matches my face, and I've lost many nights of sleep over it. Enjoy. For the record, he was very disconcerted because I also told him the same thing.
I was going to say, I don't just throw me under the bus here because Doug was the one that goes, I'm going to send you a picture. And you're gonna go, oh, did not expect, not the voice I thought, or not
It was really funny because I met with him to talk D&D stuff, and I was like, hey, just so you know, like I forgot how we came up on the topic. I forget how it came up, but I was like, yeah,
good to see you again. Justin doesn't think your voice matches your face.
Yeah, it was just something. I came up and I go, yeah, and for the record, I go, your voice didn't match your face. I go, it's been so long now because for the last time I had no idea what you looked like, so I invented what you looked like in my head. And he's like, well, what did you think I looked like? I'm like, I can't recall now because I know what you look like now. It's like the time has passed. And he had a hard time letting it go. He's like, what did you think I looked like? Has that ever happened to you? Like where you just listen to someone over and over and over again, you think, oh man, they look this way, and you see them, you're like, nope.
Yeah, I'm 100%, and that's the thing. It's I will say this to Seven, it's not at all. You are equally as good looking as I thought you were. We'll put it that way.
Okay,
like, I did not have
look at him trying to save his ass. Look at you trying to save your ass.
I'm just saying, I didn't have a monster in my head. It's just you like not what I thought you looked like. You know, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, that happens all the time. I'm in love.
I wonder the same thing because, well, no, see, that's not fair. He watches the stream because I was gonna say we played D&D Light for so many years. Never saw I just got the voice, and so you immediately when you're reading a book, you build a character in your head. You think about what this person looks like. Yeah. It's the same thing. We played 2.5 years of D&D together. Never saw your face. I had to invent someone. Otherwise, I would have lost sleep thinking it was a disconnected voice just floating there.
Just got to know when you're running for office because, man, this little spin that you've done is just it's beautiful. It's magnificent.
I don't feel like I'm spinning. I think I'm just talking here.
I feel like you're just like, man, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to flatter him and also deflect at the same time. Like that's some +4 charisma level shit right there, my friend. You know what I mean?
I mean, I did roll a nat 20, so
there
first
you go.
off, welcome. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. That happens to me all the time when I listen to podcasts. Like, just like Pod Save America is a podcast I listen to. And for the longest time, I heard these 3 hosts, and I'm just like, cool. I saw their pictures, and I was like, you look nothing like I thought at all. Not even close.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not even close. I have no idea. Just nope. Didn't match what I thought at all, and it was disconcerting for a little while. I was just like, hey, this ain't right.
Yeah,
that shit ain't right.
Now, Moon says, let's see how Justin will imagine me when he hears my voice. I'm already picturing, the, hold on. I'm going to go, I got to do a quick little Google search here.
Oh boy. Okay, gotta run, but I'll play the rest of this back later. Thank you, Seven. Appreciate you, buddy.
There we go. You remember the old movie Journey to the Moon? 1902.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. That's all I have to go on right now. So that's I have to
go outside and look up at the sky and stare at that thing that's up there. Yeah, that's what I have to go on right now. Yeah,
that's it. You know what it is? That's all it is.
I'll give you a little preview. I do have a little bit of Moon's voice. Here you go.
Oh, you do. Okay, got it. Redhead.
Yeah. I think you're right. Nailed it. Yeah.
Nailed it. To wrap up our egg conversation.
Stay on target, sir. Eggs.
I'd just like to say another one of my, just in case fans are, for my Wikipedia page, if anyone wants to update that, I love a good Eggs Benedict.
What's the Benedict part of that? Is that hollandaise sauce?
It's usually a poached egg on, like, we'll call it ham or Canadian bacon on a English muffin with hollandaise sauce drizzled.
And what is hollandaise sauce? It's egg yolks, lemon juice, Dijon, cayenne pepper. That sounds really good. I made
hollandaise sauce once, and it's very hard because you got to do it so the egg yolk doesn't scramble.
I fucking suck at that stuff, man.
It's so tough. I think I did it on a double boiler, and it was tough, but man, yeah, like it was good. It was satisfying once I made it, but I was like, I'd rather go order this than make it again.
See, I always thought hollandaise sauce was something else. I got to try it because it sounds really good. Egg yolk. It's basically a mixture of egg yolk, melted butter, and lemon juice. I'm like, that sounds
delicious. If you do it right, it's tangy and fucking amazing. And a lot of times they'll sprinkle a little paprika over the top just to give it a nice little
cayenne pepper.
Have you never had Eggs Benny?
I don't know it doesn't ring a bell. I don't know if I have.
Typically, if it's on the menu, if I go to a new spot and I see an Eggs Benedict on there, It's like a patty melt. If I see those two things on the menu, I have to get it just because I have to. I'm such a fan of them. I always have to see, what does this restaurant do? How do they do it?
I'd like to try that. I'm the same way. Whenever I cook and they're like, oh, by the way, you have to temper the egg. I'm like, I'm going to fuck this up. This shit's getting scrambled. I'm going to try. I try so hard. I just put a little bit in and I stir. I put a little bit in. By the time it's done, I'm like, this shit got scrambled, man.
Right? Low heat, always moving, always moving,
Yeah,
always moving.
Doesn't matter. I still fuck it up. Especially, I'm like, well, this is going to be chunky, all right? I hope you like your chunky desserts, because this is what it's going to be.
Scrambled egg sauce on your poached egg.
Yeah, suck it up. You know what I mean?
With lemon.
Ugh. Anyway. So, I had a...
Dog, Doug?
What's up? What'd you say?
Said, you ever cook for your dog, Doug?
Do I ever cook for my dog? I have, when she has massive diarrhea. I do. I give her some canned pumpkin.
Ah, Abby loves canned pumpkin.
Yeah, so does Loki. Yeah. Loki thinks it's pretty fucking dope. Just super awesome, and it turns her poop orange. So which is also very good. I've also heard if you give them rice and beef, like just ground beef, that sometimes helps, clog them up. But it's easier to just get a couple cans of pumpkin puree and dump it in the dish. I feel like that's less effort. So, because I'll be cooking that and I'm like getting ready to season it. I'm like, this is for my dog. Why the fuck am I going to, it doesn't matter.
I don't need to make this fun.
I barely need to cook this. This is fine. This is good.
I could just give it to him raw.
This is fine. This is whatever. Yeah. No, typically I don't, because whatever. But, I do train my dog and I do love my dog and I'm home all the time with my dog.
Perfect.
Yeah. What about your dog?
We don't typically cook for them, no. But I am home all day, and I train them, and I love them as well. Although Bennie is quite the handful right now.
Tell me what's going on with Bennie.
Bennie is proving to be quite the handful right now. He only has had one number 2 accident in the house, so that's good. He's had a few number 1s in the house. It just this getting him when he's in his crate will not go to the bathroom, and it's fantastic. If you take him out of his crate, you got to watch him like a hawk, because he will not indicate that he has to go out. And I'm struggling to figure out how to if you watch him, you can see the sniff, and you're like, that's an I'm gonna go sniff, and so you can immediately take him outside, redirect him, and he's good. But if you're not watching him, there's no discernible. It doesn't whimper, he doesn't bark, he doesn't scratch. No discernible, tell. So that's the thing that I'm struggling with, is figuring out that. And then also he is just, sometimes he'll go full fucking gremlin mode or Tasmanian devil mode and just freaks out and starts running around and tries to bite everything. And he can be like completely docile, just chewing on something like one of his toys, and then just out of nowhere.
Shit.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
We say Tasmanian devil when you're talking about pooping. I just imagine he just like goes, and just he's totally completely docile, and then it goes, and just unleashes the fury.
Moon hit it. Yeah, it's the zoomies, but it's the zoomies on crack. Yeah. Like it's, I don't know. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that he's probably still teething,
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's just a pain in his head. And I think, my theory, he's got his first vet appointment tomorrow, actually. I'm going to ask, I think he's got allergies, because I think when he gets like itchy skin or something, I think that's what triggers him to run around, because he either can't scratch himself or he can't do something, like he's uncomfortable. And so I get it. I get that. So
learning your dog's body language is one of the most difficult things. Like, I know Loki's like, oh, I'm about to take a shit walk when we're outside. I understand the mannerisms. Like you learn them. And for better or worse, Jill taught Loki to ring these bells we have hanging on our patio whenever she wants to go outside. So sometimes she just wants to go out there and hang out. Other times she's like, hey, I need to go pee. And she'll ring them. It's like, all right. Or she's like, I see a fucking squirrel out there. Ring, ring.
Let me out. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
So, which, Loki is a pretty smart dog, which is helpful. You can teach her stuff, but there's always, that's tough teaching them. I think for the most part, they're like, they don't want to shit where they sleep. They understand that's their home.
Exactly.
Once they understand that, then it's a matter of just like, I can't hold it. I got to go. Bye.
Right.
Yeah.
Seth goes similarly. I need to take a shit walk.
I think we all do.
Yeah, that's about right.
And we're like, oh God.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah, but it's coming.
But how's the training going?
I was thinking about doing the bell. I was pondering implementing that, but I thought back to when you were first doing that and Loki was incessantly ringing that bell. And I was like, I don't know if I want to deal with that either. So
I guess it just depends on the dog. It depends on, what you want to do with it.
Right.
I think it's great because she's communicating like, hey, I want to go outside. And it's like, cool. And there's sometimes where it's annoying is where she just went outside and then she's ringing it again. I'm like, you can go fuck yourself. Like,
right. Exactly.
Go do something else. You just see something. You're going to go out there and do something that you don't need to be doing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. So, I'm glad we taught her about this. And then also Jill's the one that works right next to the patio where she goes out. So
she's got to deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
The training is going fine. His sit is coming along quite nicely. And we haven't really, I really wanted to take kind of command by command. So we're working through sit right now. The big thing is making sure there's no distractions. Cause if there's anything else, this is an ADD dog. He's got no attention span right now.
He's like, no, thank you.
Yeah. But he just turned 3 months. So, he's still young as fuck.
Yeah, that's true. I think when you understand that this is a dog, not a human. Right. And they're also just learning their environment in that just with time, it's always people are like, oh, they'll get better. And they do, but it's a 2 to 3 year change that it takes. Like when we got Loki when she's a puppy, I was like, there's no way we're ever going to be able to leave her alone. Ever.
And that's exactly how I feel right now. Coming from Abby, which Abby, she is like the most chilled. Like she'll sit there and stare at you all day.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, she's cool with that. And Loki's gotten to that point now because we used to give her access to the house a step at a time. It used to be we had her in a little fortress, the Loki fortress that she lived in because, that's just what she was. And then it was, all right, you can have the den area. And then we opened it up a little bit more to some furniture that we, valued a little bit more. And then we kept her locked at just the ground floor. And then we were able to open it up to the upstairs. And we just recently were like, okay, you can stay out of your crate at night. Just
nice.
So she's pretty much a free roamer now, which is pretty cool. And we got to the point where we just tested leaving her at home by herself, and she was good. So we're taking those steps, but it takes time. It's incremental.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, and again, we talked about this I think a few weeks ago, but you remember when I first got Abby too, like how long that took. And she tore the shit out of our apartment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have the patience. You got to have AI.
That's right, baby. AI.
Either way works.
So, did you all know there's this thing called Companion? It's based on AI. Yeah, it's true.
Wait, are we going to talk about AI on this podcast?
Oh yeah, artificial intelligence is so important to our future and to treating our dogs like humans. So there's this thing called Companion. It looks like an industrial, fan.
When your basement floods and you're trying to dry it out.
Yeah, but apparently, it's this automated thing. There's an app for it and everything where it will monitor your dog. It basically, you can have it be engaged and have it be trained while you're not at home. And kind of the way that it works is the camera sees your dog. So it picks up that your dog is communicating through their movement and their posture. And then apparently it makes friends with your dog and provides hours of scheduled and on-demand engagement day in and day out. And then, so essentially what it will do is you can have commands that you record with your voice and the system will see the dog's there, and then it'll just start be like, sit. And if it monitors the dog and the dog sits, it spits out a treat, and we'll teach them essentially, how to do that, and then kind of keep them engaged and whatnot. And
it uses AI learning to see. It's got a camera and it will see that they are performing the necessary action that garners a reward.
Yeah, there's already something on the website that says, be the best pet parent. And this kind of goes into what we were talking about last week, And
this is the thing on the website. There's a quote by the CEO and founder. It says, there's this weird asymmetry between human children and pet children. Do not like them leaning into this pet children. We don't leave our human children alone, but we do leave our fur children alone and are anxious about that. Hate everything about that sentence.
Yeah.
Fur babies are one thing, but when you say
Yeah.
fur children, that just sounds gross.
Well, it says,
I
be
don't
the
like
best
it.
pet parent. Scheduled sessions, daily videos of your dog's wins, curriculum choices, alerts, and ability to intervene. Parents have never had a tool like this before. And that sentence does not end with a period. So strike against them for grammar with that one. The thing I do find this is interesting is that it says from skeletal analysis to weight tracking to thoughtful noise desensitization of common sounds, bring health intelligence home. So I do kind of appreciate that aspect of it will monitor your pet, like in how they're moving, their body. So if it like notices that they're walking a little bit differently or whatever, it tracks it. So there's some data there. It's kind of like the Apple Watch in a way that it can kind of help you look at that stuff. So
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Like it'll if the dog starts sitting differently, it's like, hey, your dog's gait or your dog's sit is a little different. Maybe you go get its hips checked out or something. Like, I appreciate that, but I don't know. There's a lot of. First and foremost, I've got a dog that does not respond to anything technology-wise. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a potential.
Why do you think that is, Justin?
I don't know, Doug, and that's the weirdest thing. Do you have any theories?
I don't know. Just maybe a condition or something?
I don't know, possibly. I think Abby thinks that the camera is going to steal her soul. I think that's what it is. She just won't look at it. She won't make eye contact with it is what it is.
Yeah. I think that's...
no eye contact.
Yeah, that's a common thing.
Weird.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's the damnedest thing.
Yeah, it is.
No, but even from when we got her, we would try to take selfies with her, or we'd try... If the camera's pointed, she looks away. If the TV's on, she wants nothing to do with it. If even our voices via speakerphone, she has no response to whatsoever. So I understand that Abby might not be the right dog customer for this, but I think that is definitely a thing. Like, not all dogs respond to computer stimulus. You know what I mean? Like, not it. I think that that's an inherent potential flaw in this. And then secondarily, what happens if the dog decides to start chewing on this thing or knocks it over or finds
it's created from unobtainium, so it's indestructible.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah. That's so good. Is James Cameron the investor in this?
You think so?
You wish
you could.
Because then there will be 5 iterations of this that no one asked for.
Over a 30-year period. And the first one comes out, or the second one comes out 10 years after the fact. So hang on to
We spent 10 years making this moderately different.
Yes. It still looks beautiful, though. Let me tell you. It looks beautiful.
Yeah. The packaging, unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the practical side of me appreciates this because, like, what a great way to help train your dog and also engage with him while you're not there. It gives him something to do. I've gotten some toys where I jam a treat into it and toss over to Loki and she chomps on it for a few hours trying to get all the treat out. I'm like, that's some sort of engagement. But
you can do lick pads. You can do. I've bought some puzzles for you hide treats in and you like lock and close certain doors and they've got to figure out how to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I do appreciate the fact of like, how can you keep your dog engaged, and also how can you keep training them when you're not there? I think that's, pretty viable. I think a lot of the stuff relies on a lot of things. Like you said, like I've bought cat beds for cats that don't use it. I've bought dog beds for dogs that don't use it. Like I bought plenty of things that the creatures just don't use the way that they're supposed to, or just don't even care about them. So I think this is obviously something that's pretty specific. I would imagine for the most part, it would have to be a dog that maybe grows up with this, right? That is introduced it relatively easy. Oh, it has to be a dog. Yeah, because this isn't going to be every single dog can use this sort of situation. But I appreciate the element of it. But also, I think the part that also really bothers me is just that it is sort of these are our children kind of thing. And we're going to take care of them. And I don't know. It's also just seems like, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. Like, I love the AI element of technology, like helping us out with this, but also it just seems incredibly unnerving to be like, I have this machine in my house that trains the dog and engages them while I'm not there.
I think it's unnerving. It's also, for me, I think it's more of an element. Like, this is unbelievably bougie. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to get a piece of AI machinery that's going to train my dog when I'm not there. Talk about unnecessarily bougie.
Yeah.
And I can easily see people falling into not training their dogs and just relying on this thing to train their dog. Entertaining your dog, making sure your dog's not bored is one thing, I guess. Like, so they're not destructive and all that. But unless this thing is going to engage with them the entire time you're away, like, I just don't. Do dogs really need to be engaged this much? Like, dogs tend to sleep more than we do. You know what I mean? Cats tend to sleep. What was the statistic? Like 18 hours a day or something like that?
Oh yeah. That's
just how they roll, you know? So I just don't know that. Do you need to train your dog when you're away? Why don't you take the time to train it when you're there? I think it's very unnecessary to train your dog while the need to train your dog while you're away. Also very dependent on your dog sitting pretty much right in front of the fucking thing. Mm-hmm. If they're not sitting in front of the thing, this thing does nothing.
Moon brings up a good point. It's like, what's the cost? Right now, if you go to their website and you click on reserve, it says reserve for $49. The deposit is to reserve your spot in line. You will be able to choose purchase options at a later date, starting at $49 a month. So starting at $50 a month, you can have this thing. So that's pretty big. I mean, that's like health insurance for your dog. You know what I mean? Like, that's about the cost of that. So, I mean, yeah, you got to be committed to giving that a whirl. So, I don't know.
It's just $50 a month for something that your dog may or may not use. I don't know. It seems. I can appreciate the element of maybe processing the health information, but outside of that, I think this is absolute excess. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this would have to be something where I'd have to get a lot of good word of mouth from people. And it's still, there'd be the risk that I don't know if my dog is going to enjoy this or use this or whatever. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn where I like the concept of it, like most things about AI. Like, I appreciate the concept of it. I don't think it's something I'll participate in. I can appreciate the idea of, like, I'd like to just reinforce with my dog some things, because Jesus, you know, sometimes it's a lot, and you got to be consistent with training your dog. You know, it's got to be an everyday thing. And so if you could have a little bit of help while you're not there, just being like, hey, remember, sit, you know, hey, lie down, hey, you know, like, roll over. If you can teach them to do that sort of stuff while you're not there and just reinforce that, you know, I think that's really good.
I guess my big question is, what happens when the AI teaches your dog to be racist? Because we know that's going to happen.
Yeah, because if there's one thing we've learned about dogs, is like, that's not inherently there; it's taught. You know?
Right. So, and if we know one thing about AI, it is inherently there.
It's based on a set of data, you know, a training set. And that training set, racist.
Right. I mean, do we know anything about the CEO? I'm not saying, for legal reasons, I'm not saying anything bad about him, but I'm just raising the question.
I'm just asking the question. I mean, this guy, he's wearing.
I'm a question guy.
What's he wearing? He's got a cool hat off to the side. He's got like fancy tech glasses, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, he's got an Apple Watch, you know?
He's got a smile on his face that says, I just farted into this white couch.
Did you, and I'm blaming on the dog, and the dog's like, not again.
Right?
Not again.
Is this, this also looks like an Apple ad, because he's got the Apple headphones strategically placed behind the dog. He's got the Apple Watch, and clearly you can see he's on a Mac.
Well, this is a tech guy. That's how you know this is a cool piece of tech, because he's a tech guy. You know what I mean? He's the CEO of an AI company, Justin.
That's true.
What's he going to have, a Lenovo? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Think he's going to have a Dell? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Did you watch this video, by the way?
I did. I very much did.
I didn't like how he had his hat like just off kilter. Like he was going to be like playing, like he's a retired drummer in a punk band, you know?
You're talking about the See It in Action video, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
he talks through all of it, and he's like, this is what I think is important. You know, you got to hit the hi-hat and the drums, you know, you got to say, fuck the establishment, but also, you know, just check out AI and my dog.
I think what I'm realizing in going over this story for the show, I think and that Casey Neistat video that I sent you, I think what I'm realizing, for those who want to go look it up, Casey Neistat, YouTube blogger, he used GPT-4 to create a vlog script, and he went and shot it shot for shot of what the AI spit out as far as the script goes. He followed it, shot for shot and word for word, and he did the vlog that the script wrote. Sorry, he did the script that the AI wrote for the vlog, and it was. And then he talks about it a little bit at the end. But I think after that and this and everything we've talked about, AI fascinates me. But I think at this point, I am definitely on the anti-AI side. I'm in camp. No, thank you. I don't know. You have a question?
I do.
You have your hand raised.
All AI across all things, or AI in the creative space?
Mostly AI in the creative space. This AI for dogs is really a bummer to me, and I don't know why. It's
just AI is for really dogs. It sounds like you're like making fun of something.
I think I do see the potential uses in certain fields, in certain instances, but this to me feels frivolous. This to me feels like something that doesn't need to exist. That is, it's like, oh, you have AI for your dog now. AI is a thing you've heard about. Buy this. I don't know. This just, for some reason, and I don't know why, it's like, what is a sport? This is just like in my gut, rub it. This is agitating me, and I can't really put my finger on why. It just seems extremely frivolous to me.
I would say that I don't mind AI in the creative space as a jumping off point. Which if you use it as hey, I'm going to type out, give me a script that based on these parameters, and it farts something out, and you're like, yeah, this is, as Casey Neistat said, this is lacking a lot of soul. Yeah. But it could perhaps give you the framework, or give you some ideas. Because essentially what he told it, I mean, you don't really know all the parameters, but essentially like, create a script, for a vlog based on everything that's in walking distance within Manhattan and yada, yada, yada. Basically, it turns into a tour of Manhattan. You know, it's like, and over here is the bull at the stock market. And then over here is this thing. And boy, we better check it at the office. I mean, yeah, it's very, I mean, this is something you'd probably see on cable, network. It's as far as like how dog shit it is. Yeah. But if you take that, I think AI like that is hard to take at face value right now because it's lacking the sophistication. But if you take that and you're like, it seems like a tour of New York, and you're like, maybe use that as a jumping off point. Be like, well, what about Manhattan do I really like? And maybe that starts the ball rolling on some ideas. Or what are your least favorite places? What are some less known places? Because this is showing all the touristy spots. What's the one place that I know of that no one, all of a sudden the ball's rolling, and that gave you something that could. It's the same thing with like all the image generations, like in pictures. A lot of times I feel like that stuff can be great idea builders for concepts, for things that you can take and be like, oh, this is a great idea. Obviously the hands and feet are fucked up and the eyes don't function like a human would. I think Seth shared a compilation of stuff where like AI doesn't understand how humans eat.
Oh, the spaghetti one.
Yeah, they don't know how to eat spaghetti. Yeah. It's just like people were like they were Slipknot screaming at a concert at spaghetti. They're like, ah! It was just hilarious.
Somehow it was going in their mouth. Yeah,
yeah, it was insane. Like what people were doing trying to eat spaghetti, because it just doesn't understand that. But I think if you use it as a genesis, a starting point for something that does have a soul, I think that's useful. It's something that kind of help get the juices flowing, maybe lay the foundation. But I think if you rely heavily on it, I think people are using it like a cheat code right now. And it's not going to get you what you want.
But let me ask you, with the using it as a jumping off point, or using it as the inspiration, for millennia, we have created things without AI. Why do we need that for inspiration now?
We can use anything we want for inspiration. We could use a sunset. We could use
but if the AI goes, hey, go use a sunset for inspiration. Like, I just feel like people have been doing this for millennia without without AI giving them something.
Mhm.
They've been truly coming up from scratch with it. So I just don't understand what's the benefit of having AI give you a prompt if you've already got the ability to
Maybe
prompt
that
yourself.
prompt's just right behind a door, and for whatever reason, you don't see that door, and it's not opening. You know what I mean? Like you've had writer's block before, right? You're trying to find that thing, and maybe you're like, what if I can just find something, maybe just whatever. I mean, we did that for podcast episodes where we clicked a button and it would just give us a random web page. We're like, what do we want to talk about? Go! And it would just be like, here's a random web page. We're like, hey, look at this thing.
What was that website called?
I forget.
Oh,
I forget what it was called.
God,
But
we definitely did a couple episodes with that.
yeah,
Would that be considered AI?
to some degree, right? I mean, we're relying on something to give us inspiration to be creative, and I feel like that can come from anywhere. And listen, AI may not work for everybody. Some people are like, this is insane. I don't think it works for me. But maybe it's that thing. Maybe if it's just like, hey, create a random image for me. You look at this image, you're like, whoa, this is fucking cool. This image is insane. I've never seen anything like this before. What is this? And based on how you look at it, you're like, this gives me an idea for something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, I feel like it's just another tool. It's not the only tool. It's just one of the many tools. Going on a walk can be a tool. You know, talking with friends, experiencing life, watching a movie, listening to music, you know, dealing with emotional things that come up in your life, like relying on your past memories, relationships, all that sort of stuff that can all be together. I think AI is just another tool in the tool belt, in the chest that you could use to be like, you know what I feel like today? I want to type something into ChatGPT and be like, hey, I would think it'd be really cool if we could have Alex Smith review Bluey. And we type that in, you know, Alex Jones, not Alex Smith. Alex Smith's a quarterback. Alex Jones.
Oh, I was like, I don't know. Okay.
Let's have Alex Jones review Bluey. And bam, we've got this amazing review in the voice of Alex Jones, who is reviewing Bluey, one of the most beloved kid shows out there. And holy shit, I never could have created something like that. I mean, I probably could have, but I never would have thought of that. Was out of Seth's mind. He's like, let's have this. And then boom, we get this amazing thing we get to do as a segment on this show. It was awesome.
Look, I'm not going to say that it's not, some of the stuff that's created is not entertaining. Like that, like that script was very entertaining. When we created stories about each other, it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
I just think there's a difference between going on a walk and to get inspiration and AI. I think for me, the difference is when the thing you're getting inspiration from could do the job for you. It's just, to me, it says something fundamentally different than going on a walk. Going on a walk, it's not generating the script or the idea for the picture or the whatever, but this AI, you're using it to prompt you, but this could easily just do the thing for you. And
It technically can do it now, just poorly. In the future, it could probably give you whatever you want. You know, Casey Neistat said at the end of that, he goes, I hope AI doesn't get any better. You know,
I agree. I think we're at the beginning of what could be a very slippery slope. And I'm gonna as we often do on this show. If you listen to future episodes, you'll undoubtedly hear me flip flop on this stance. Right now, where I stand is I feel like AI. I'm leaning towards the anti-AI team right now. That being said, I do still understand the use for AI in maybe crunching a lot of an incredible amount of data and spitting out some analytics surrounding that, like in the medical field or in, you know, again, maybe even in the legal field. I don't know, but like when it comes to crunching a ton of data and spitting out a nice, concise, analytics report on that, I think AI could be very beneficial. When it starts touching the creative realm and when unnecessary shit like this dog companion comes out, this is where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like we're stretching here.
I would like people to slow down on the AI stuff right now, because I feel like it's the Wild West and people are just, you know, hitting up every single gold mine they can find. You know, it's the gold rush. It's all this sort of stuff, and people are. Maybe that's
what this is for me.
I think you made a good point where you're like, AI. You've heard of this, right? Well, this has AI in it. You know, it's like, well, this has electrolytes. You know, it's like this. You know, this is organic. You know, this has protein in it. You know, like it's whatever. This has no fat. It's something where people are slapping a label on it people are like, oh, AI. Oh, okay. I know what that is.
Yeah.
You know, and because AI is a pretty vague term, you know, it's like, oh,
this
has this thing that is kind of interesting. Supposedly it's high tech, you know, and I would like us as a society to take a step back and ask ourselves, where are the boundaries that we want to set up with AI? And unfortunately, what we've seen in the last century or so, maybe more, is technology accelerate at a pace that is existing beyond our comprehension, to the point where we can't put up guardrails.
Yeah.
Because it's happening so fast, you kind of need to have some sort of inciting incident to then look backwards and be like, wait a minute, where have we gone? We saw that with social media and we didn't put the guardrails on it. And then all of a sudden we just got to the point now where we just happily surrender our data to strangers.
Well, I think I heard a statistic that we have come further technology wise in the last 100 years than the last 10,000 years prior to that, which is a staggering. Now, I may be slightly off on those numbers, but conceptually, that's what the statistic was. In the last X number of years, and we'll call it 100, we've come that much further than the previous 10,000. Like, that's fucking insane. Yeah. We are moving at breakneck speed, and I am absolutely here for technology. I fucking love technology. I am a nerd. I love it. But I do think, like you just said, we need to, as a society, go, okay, cool. Instead of just diving in head first, how do I monetize this? Maybe we go, should we be monetizing it? Should we be doing this much with it? Where are our boundaries? Let's put a little bit of a play pen. Like when you're training a dog, you put a little fence up and you make sure that they're contained. You put this technology in that container and go, okay, let's let it mature for a little while before we just fucking set it free.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And I mean, if you think about that and how technology is, I mean, the bow and arrow, to quote, Iron Man, was the pinnacle of weapons technology for literally centuries,
Yeah,
and absolutely. There was the English who basically had the longbow, which was far superior to a crossbow, and it could shoot farther and be more accurate, and it created all sorts of issues. And then if you watch that progression over time, it's not unlike the game Civilization, where you just basically build your civilization at the beginning of time and you progress. And I can't help but really pour a ton of my effort into science every single game, because if I can out-science people, I fucking crush them. Yeah. Because my favorite thing to do is to see a rival country next to me who's like, hey, man, we've got knights. I'm like, yeah, I have Apache helicopters. I'm going to fucking blow you up. You know what I mean? Like, you have no hope. Like, I have tanks. I have World War I tanks against your fucking knights. What are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like, that is kind of, you see that, and then you kind of look at where we are. I mean, again, someone told me this when I was in college, and I say all the time because I think it's worth noting. Someone who was born in the year 1900 was probably born in a wagon. It's very possible that they were born in a wagon, and in their lifetime, they got to watch someone land on the fucking moon. That's like wild. That span by itself is incredible. I mean, you think about the year 1900, we go through, by the time you get to 1963 or 1969, we've gone through 2 world wars. Right? You had World War I, where that technology was wild with like just the military technology. World War II, you're talking like radio. You're talking like that amount of time, and then you just look at from 1969 to now. I mean,
World War I by itself, it started on horses and it ended in tanks.
Yeah, right.
Like in those 4 years. Holy fuck.
Yeah. And the whole idea of military tactics changed because people were like, oh, we'll just charge each other. And they realized, oh, yeah, the Gatling guns will fucking just shred you to pieces. Like the technology, just all the old tactics got thrown out the window. They're like, oh, we can't do what we used to do because the technology has forced you to do something else. And it's, if you apply that to where we are today, I mean, again, the scariest thing you can do is like, man, you remember 20 years ago and you think it's like 1990. It's like, no, dude, that was like 2000. Like that was not that long ago, Again,
when you go, what do they say? We're the same distance now from 1993 as people in 93 were from 1963.
Yeah.
And that's a fucked up thought.
Woof. Right.
That's a fucked up thought.
Right. I remember 93 quite well. I was 10.
Yeah, I know, man. It's fucking nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Internet was just in its infancy right there. You know what I mean? Like, woo. I mean, yeah, that was wild. And you think about where we are now. And that's one of the things I feel like we're in a unique generation, you and I, because we were there pre-internet, right? We learned cursive. You know, we did like the analog world, and we transitioned with technology in real time to where most of us picked up and lived with it, where we started with, we hopped onto the internet. We started with old consoles, not like, there are people like, I had an Atari. I'm like, I didn't have an Atari, I had a Nintendo, but we started there, and then we progressed. There's the internet, and then we adapt to that, and then there's cell phones, and we adapt to that, and then there's social media, and we accept it. And we're like, this is kind of cool. And then before you know it, it becomes this abomination. Yeah. And we've witnessed all of it. And I think we are a very strange generation, because I think it's very arrogant to say we've seen it all, but we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot in the transition of what it was to where it is now. Yeah. It's no, I mean, I think the way I think we're different than is because Gen X and people were older when that happened. Right. The technology grew up with us. So like as we age, the technology sort of like kept up with us, and now it's just off to the races. And kind of like we were joking last time. Yes. And kind of like we were joking last time, we're going to get to the point in 20 years, we're going to be like, man, this AI is doing all this. I don't trust it. It's like, we're going to be those guys that are going to be really unnerved by it, but there's going to be kids that just grew up with it. Fucking Natalie has an iPad as part of her school curriculum. She gets assigned an iPad as part of her learning stuff. She was watching shit. She's got this encyclopedia that talks to her on it. It's incredible. I
remember having the volumes of Britannica that I would go to, and I would be like, all right, I'm going to read B.
I remember doing a science project in 8th grade. It was 7th or 8th grade, and I had access to Encarta on my computer.
Okay, yes.
And I also had a color printer. And I was able to print out. It was about the planets. I typed stuff up and printed out pictures of the planets, and I turned it in. And my teacher was super fucking suspicious of this. Like, he came up to me and goes, hey, where did you get this? I thought he was like, he goes, hey, I need to talk to you about it. I'm like, I know, isn't it awesome? I was waiting to just get shouted with praise. He's like, where did you get this? All of a sudden, like, it was after class, and he was very combative with me. He's like, where did you get this? Where did you, like, I think he thought I plagiarized it or something. He's like, where did you get this? I'm like, off of my computer. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, where'd you get the pictures? I'm like, I printed it out. And he's like, okay, you can go. And I realized in that moment, I was like, oh shit, I was on trial there. Like, he thought I fucking plagiarized this shit or just stole it from something. And that was a defining moment in his life where he's like, oh shit. I have no idea, but he was super like, the mood was like, see me after class. I was like, tell me how awesome I am. He's like, where the fuck did you get this? It's like, oh my God.
I'm confused on our tone here. I thought I was supposed to be getting praised.
Funny story, that guy got fired for touching kids.
Well, thank God you just got admonished verbally.
Right? So, not in like, the downstairs way, but he would oftentimes like put his hands on like kids' shoulders and stuff like that. And
that's fucking gross.
A lot of people were like, I don't like this. I don't like this. Yeah, it was, It
was grade school for you.
It was junior high.
Junior high, yeah. We had it's such a bummer when there was a few people from my past who I have seen news articles about. Specifically, my mom will be like, she'll send me something in like the Daily Herald. She'll mail me. I love it. She'll snail mail me a newspaper article she clipped out. And she's
Isn't
like,
that great?
Did you have him as a teacher? And I was like, no, but I knew of him as a teacher in this school.
Speaking of technology, my mom would do that. She would send me a newspaper clip, like a literal. She'd clip it out and send it. I was like, just
text me the headline. I'll go online and find it.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm sure that the I forget what the Kirksville the newspaper's called, but I'm like,
Gazette.
I was like, you could just tell,
Yeah.
Seth goes,
Kirksville Crier.
mom's are telling you who you knew from high school who's in jail.
Name a more iconic duo.
That is true. My mom was like, did you hear?
Yeah.
Did you hear about this? I was like, I don't talk to them. No, I don't know anything about them.
God,
like, okay. So-and-so got in a bar fight. I'm like, okay, good for them, I guess. I don't know.
That's what it really is, the Kirksville Crier. Like it's just like so-and-so was found on a park bench. He's in the drunk tank.
Yeah.
Please pick him up.
Yeah, it's so funny, the local
Classified
coverage.
ads. Yeah.
Moon says, my dad cut out certain things. One featured me winning the fancy dress back in 2000. Okay, what's the fancy dress? What does that mean? Like, is that like a hide and seek thing? You got to find it. The fancy dress is hidden somewhere.
And I think,
or is this like
can we
combat?
find it online? I just type in fancy dress 2000.
Yeah, like
What happens then?
Oh, I wonder what you're gonna get for the fancy dress 2000.
I'm gonna do it. 2000.
The fancy
you know what I'm gonna
dress.
get? I haven't hit entered yet, but you know what I'm gonna get? I'm gonna get those like taffeta prom dresses that everyone wore.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like this at all.
What'd you get?
21
Vintage
2000s Halloween costume ideas from what?
What? This is a really weird
Oof.
search result. I don't know what is happening right now, but I'm going to close this. I don't like this. You know what, Doug?
You got the questions, we got the answers. All you do is ask. Practical, 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 practical. Ask practical. Boom!
Whoa. We really did it this time. Did you
Bitch.
feel it?
Did you feel it?
Are you ready, kids?
All right. If you have never been here for Practical Doug before, Practical Doug is a small Doug that lives inside Big Doug, and he guides Doug through all of life's journeys, all of life's questions, all of life's quandaries. You can ask Practical Doug a question if you'd like by joining us live Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central on youtube.com/mindgap podcast. On any social media, you can mention Mindgap Podcast and hashtag Ask Practical Doug. And then on Discord, there's an Ask Practical Doug channel set up specifically for people who want to ask him questions. And this question today came from that Discord chat. Jared, our little Ask Practical Dougger, he says, well, he got this from Reddit, so he didn't say it, but he posted. He said, you, Doug, you and a super intelligent snail both get $1 million and you both become immortal. However, you die if the snail touches you. It always knows where you are and slowly crawls towards you. What's your plan?
This is not going to be a very impressive plan, but it has a very practical approach to it because that's what this segment's all about. I take the $1 million and I go and enjoy it for a couple of years, maybe invest some of it to whatever. But ultimately, I keep the snail close. I know where it is because after I've had my fun, I'm going to go just jump up and belly flop on it because I don't want to be immortal. I don't want to live forever. That
I knew that was where you were going to go.
It's a goddamn curse. I don't want to live forever. Like that's awful. That is one of the worst things. When I was younger, the idea of immortality, I got it. Whenever I've seen movies and stuff where the villain's like, I'm going to live forever, I'm like, that's a child's perspective of life. Because everlasting life, to me personally, is a nightmare. That is an absolute nightmare because all you will see is everyone that you care about dying. That's all that will ever be. Is everyone you know and love will ultimately die. Time will start to move at a faster pace for you because, to quote the king of the woodland elves in The Hobbit, he's like, what's a couple hundred years? As like these dwarves are sitting in prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's something where it's just completely and utterly brutal. Like just to exist forever. Not only that, you will see the end of the universe, assuming you don't get stabbed in the throat or something. Because immortal just means you live forever, doesn't mean you can't die. So, you know.
What would that, invincible?
Invincible, yeah. Immortal would just mean that you don't age. Technically, the elves in Lord of the Rings are immortal. They don't age, but they can still die in battle, you know?
Living forever, never dying or decaying. Immortality is the concept of eternal life. Yeah, eternal life.
Doesn't mean you can't get
so
murdered.
Can you inherently... Doesn't it, though?
I don't think so.
That's an interesting... There's the interesting debate right there. Mm-hmm. That's where we need to table this, and we need to put this on debate for another time.
Because here's the thing. If that means the only way you can die is by the snail, that's even worse. You will see the end of the known universe when the earth explodes or gets burned up by the sun. You will still exist throughout all of that. And you're floating through the nothingness, the vacuum of space, alive, unable to die, separated from your snail friend who's floated off in a different direction. You're going to wish you could die.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It is a very, very good point. I think the Redditor, if you guys want, you can either look this up on Reddit or join our Discord, check out the Ask Practical Doug channel, and you can find the link. There is one Redditor who fucking nailed their answer. And I feel like he had a very practical answer as well, although he was sticking it out to the end of the universe.
Yes, his goal was the long game of, I need to imprison this snail in a place deep within the earth. Yep. And then, but that's the short game. That's short-sighted. He goes, I got a plan to invest my money into getting off of this planet, colonizing other things, and ultimately being able to get past our galaxy and onward, so that when this galaxy, the solar system ends, I'm already far away and moving on as like the unit. Like, I don't want to live through all of that.
And pushing the snail into a black hole so that it's basically in suspended animation forever.
Yeah. Like, dude, what? No. No, all this assumes that all of us in this humanity are going to live, and if not, you'll be alone. You'll be insane. That's a horrible fate. I'll take the $1 million. Also, why does the snail get $1 million?
This is what I couldn't figure out. I'm like, that seems like it's a super intelligent snail that gets $1 million and immortality. The $1 million seems excess there. What's the snail going to do with $1 million? I don't know.
Money is a man-made invention. Snails don't deal with money.
I mean, look, if the snail cares about that, then what I would do is I would try to pay off the snail. Here, you take my $1 million.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, right? Yeah. The thing is, you'll never know if the snail agrees or not. That's just you'll just have to take its word.
It's slimy little word.
Yeah, it's slimy little word. Yeah. How about you, Justin? What would you do?
It's a great question because you bring up a good point. I definitely have I definitely still have a small part of me that has that childhood, like, being immortal would be awesome. But when you think about it in the true context of going to the end of the universe and you're floating through space alone and there's no way to die, like, that is horrifying. And that actually preys on a lot of my very real fears. Like dying alone and just,
but
going
you won't.
insane.
You won't die.
I'm just saying.
That's a fear.
Yes, it's a fear. I think mine would be a combination of yours and this other guy's. Like, I would keep the snail at bay. I'd probably go through all the motions he did to keep the snail, like, in the tungsten ball, buried in molten iron that's hardened, and then throw it into the Marina Trench and, like, get it down there and then just kind of live my life. I feel like if I did that, eventually I could excavate the snail and just be like, all right, old friend, it's time. And I could, I kiss it and then I go into the forever sleep.
Yeah.
I would do something in between the two of them, but I like yours where you're like, I'm going to keep the snail where I know it is, and then eventually we'll call it.
Yeah,
How many years would you go is the question.
That's the thing, is that's what you have to figure out. You have to figure out how long you're willing to go. And for me, I guess it would probably be when my friends and family, maybe before that, like I would like to, friends and family maybe pass on or about to, it'd be like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. Like
When you say friends and family, are you talking about like just straight old age? Like you're kicking off at like 80, 90 years old, somewhere in there, 100?
maybe. I mean, it depends.
Are you going to stick around for potentially great grandkids?
That's the thing is, I'm like, at some point you got to call it. You know what I mean? And not only that, who's this weird guy who just like still looks like he's 40? That's just always hanging. Because here's another thing to consider: the social impact. If you don't die or age, people will fucking notice. Unless means
you start moving around, right?
The government will notice, which means they will fucking capture you and they will experiment on you, trying to find your secret. And boy, will they be disappointed.
You're just like, I gotta stay away from the snail. The snail's gonna kill me.
Here's the thing: is when you finally, after they torture you, like, fine. There's a snail that I've hidden, and they just like fucking shoot him again. Like, we're not gonna believe that there's a fucking snail here that is the key to all of this. So like, eat shit, and because that's the other thing. You assume that you just get to live a happy and fun life, that no one ever knows that you never age. That's just not how it works.
Would be is you'd constantly have to be changing. You couldn't even have an entire relationship because like if you meet someone, fall in love, and they're getting older, then you'd have to peace out, abandon your family, change your identity, relocate. You'd have to pull a Logan, right? It'd be the Wolverine scenario.
And nowadays it's so hard with technology.
It really
because
is.
It's so easy to take pictures, knowing your location like that. I mean, I recently heard a stat. There was a guy in Europe that was, I don't know, has fathered hundreds of kids. He just kept donating to different sperm banks, even though he wasn't supposed to. I mean, just how awful is that? You just hopping around, siring a bunch of people, it's and to what end? It's just because at some point you turn into Dr. Manhattan and maybe you go crazy to the point where you stop caring about humanity, right?
Right.
Maybe with, you stop, death means nothing to you and you start looking at humans differently. You change. Like there's so many horrible things that I could imagine happening just from becoming immortal. You know, just getting stuck somewhere, getting trapped. Like what happens if you're on a fucking
speaking, I feel like you're more likely to eventually get trapped somewhere.
You're on I mean, you talked about what was the show The Old Guard. Someone got fucking trapped in something underwater and kept drowning consistently over and over and over for fucking
a horrendous thought. Yeah.
That's a thought that's very possible. You'd be like, I'm never going on a fucking boat. One, they're a depreciating asset, and two, I'm gonna get fucking trapped. Right. Like anything could happen. Anything could happen where you're just like fucking trapped, and then you're kind of like dying, but you're not dead, and you're like, "Where's that fucking snail?" Because here's the thing: if you break your leg, it doesn't instantaneously heal. Right.
This probably still hurts.
It still fucking hurts. It still has to heal. Does it heal the same way, or do you become like, "Oops, that leg's fucked up forever now"?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Now here's the one.
We don't have Wolverine's healing abilities. You just live forever.
Here's the one thing I'll say against that is that imagine if you live forever, imagine how good you'll get at making scrambled eggs.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope
so.
You'll
finally crack you'll finally figure out milk or no milk. Like
you'll probably have a preference and you'll probably have an opinion. Jesus, the opinions you'd have. Oh my God.
Well, can you imagine?
Actually, I was there when that happened. I remember pretty well.
You just become the pretentious guy at every party.
You just wear a fedora everywhere you go, and you're just like, well, actually,
It's not cold out. Why does he have a scarf on? That's him.
Yeah, it's like that scene in Sandman where Hob is dating a black woman, and they're at a Renaissance fair. And she's like, isn't this funny? He's like, no, this is bullshit. None of this happened.
None of this happened,
you wouldn't be here where you are right now because you would be somewhere else in a much worse place. He's like, this is all insulting to me this is not how it was.
I lived through this.
I lived through this. This is all bullshit. That would get increasingly, with the way we have technology now.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing about, just fuck, you know what? I'll retire early with $1 million. Actually, which won't even get you very far these days.
No, $1 million isn't the same as this whole question. Fuck this. $1 million, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's got to be 10 million before we even start to entertain this question.
Right. Because
we're going to delete this entire segment.
There we go. Well, cut this out. Anyway, that was fun. It was good.
Yeah.
Good chat. Good stuff.
I didn't realize we were going to go from an Ask Prickle Doug into a Doug Hates Stuff.
Yeah. Well,
it happened. We got there.
Yeah.
1 billion. Yes, $1 billion.
$1 billion. Hooray.
$1 billion.
I'm gonna come.
So,
Trump-
Justin, what do you
Trump will never not be funny.
what do you got to recommend this week, buddy? As you take a sip from your Batman cup.
Well, I've been on an older show kick recently, and so I went back and I started watching the Larry Sanders Show. On HBO, starring Gary Shandling. When I was younger, I always confused the hell out of me because I'm like, Gary Shandling is Larry Sanders, and I don't understand who's the real guy. What's his name? Who's the actor? Now that I'm older, I'm going back, and a lot of people, a lot of comedians and people in the comedy talked about the Larry Sanders Show as being kind of one of those pivotal, like watershed shows, or like the one of the shows that really, really solidified certain things in comedy and was a huge inspiration for them. Apatow, my God, why am I blanking on his first name? Judd? Yeah, Judd Apatow. He started out as a writer on there, became a producer, but like that was a kind of a pivotal thing for him. And so many young comedians came through that show playing themselves, because the concept is that the Larry Sanders Show, Gary Shandling plays a late night talk show host called Larry Sanders. And it's a behind the scenes look of a late night talk show and all the unbalanced people that work there and just the madness that goes on, you know, how producers are two-faced and the co-host always feels like he's less than. And it's just, it's a really funny take on that. But a lot of people got to come through and cut their teeth. Very, very young David Spade, Dana Carvey, you know, David Duchovny, you name it. Anyone from that era came through it. And now that I'm older, I can appreciate that. I used to look at that and like, this show looks boring. But it's, I got to say, if you can get past the 1992 look,
yeah,
it's definitely entertaining. I'll say that. So if you are a fan of comedy, check out the Larry Sanders Show just for nostalgia, or not nostalgia, just for research purposes, just so you can understand a little bit better the history of, you know, just the history of comedy and where a lot of comedians drew their inspiration from.
I've heard some comedians talk about how when they watch that show, they're like, oh yeah, that's the behind the scenes is pretty accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm loving. I'm just like, man, it's just dysfunctional as shit. And I can fully, he's just a neurotic mess. He's never, you know, he always needs people to build him up and tell him that he's good. And even when they do, he doesn't believe him. And I'm like, man, this has got to be what show business is like. This really has to be it. You know, producers constantly kissing his ass and just, you're the best. And then he turns around and he goes, we got to get this fucking guy, you know, like this two-faced producer and the booking agent. It's very fun to watch. So yeah.
That's
anyway,
hilarious.
Doug, what do you got?
I've got something that you've already recommended, as well as a bajillion other people, but I just started watching The House of Dragon on HBO, the Game of Thrones spinoff. Like, I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I'm like, fine. I had to shake off still the Game of Thrones, like, just grossness that was that. And I was hooked right away. Hooked in, loved it, and I think I don't know what episode I've on. I've watched, I think most. I don't even know how many episodes there are, but I've watched a lot of them so far, and fucking great. You know, for a show that actually doesn't have a ton of action either. Honestly,
no, it's a very story driven.
Yeah, Moon says Matt Smith is in it. Matt Smith's great in it. Like, a lot of great actors, and I also like how it takes place over a period of time. Like, not just. You get to see some of these characters age and different actors play and stuff like that, which is really cool. It also just makes me feel solidifies that I was like, I never want to have any station or power in my life, because while we're not quite like that, I mean, there's got to be some sort of semblances to what you got to do to hold on to power, the idea of bloodlines and succession and all that shit. Like, as it's happening, I'm like, I get why this character's doing that. I get why that character's doing that, because it makes sense. And you realize that all of this sort of this idea that like we have to, make sure our bloodline stays true just makes things, it creates problems for the future. Because all you're doing is creating multiple people who are going to fight for the throne. And that's all it is. And it's like, God, what a fucking nightmare.
Let me ask you about your stance, your typical stance on prequels, which once you shared, I adopted as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind this. And I was trying to figure out exactly why. I think it was because it happened so long before the original.
It was 172 years before before the original. So like I don't know.
Is that why you're okay with it? Or,
I don't know how any of this stuff, like I know how this stuff will play out in the future and things like that, but this is so concentrated on this family. I was like, I don't know the connections to everything, how it, you see things like, I'm so-and-so from, Winterfell. I'm like, oh, hey, it's the Starks. But it's like, who gives a shit? Baratheon's like, oh, cool, the Lannisters. All right, cool, I know that. They mentioned the Tullys and things of that nature, but I don't see the direct connections. There's no like cameos or anything that's like wink, wink, nod, nod sort of stuff. It's just this is this thing that happened before with this group of people that didn't exist, very much in Game of Thrones because their house had basically been eradicated. So it's like, oh, here they are. It's almost like the excitement to some degree in the prequels are like, look at all these Jedi, because there weren't that many in Star Wars. Now look at all of them. It's like, look at all these Targaryens. They're everywhere. The world's just rotten with them. Yeah. There's dragons everywhere. And it's just very enjoyable. I don't know. Like I said, because it's not such they're not trying to be like, hey, you remember how this, sort of thing.
Like directly connecting the stuff.
They make a couple references and stuff like that, but, for the most part, it's just like, this is the story of these people in this world. Here are some places that are familiar. Here's King's Landing. Here's Dragonstone. Here's some stuff they're like, oh, yeah, I've seen some of this stuff before. I remember this, but it's just, I don't know. It's pretty well done. I think it's extremely well acted, but boy, I'm talking too much about this. This segment shouldn't be this long. But one quick thing is just there's a couple ways they edited the scenes where I just felt very anxious. Where I'm like, shit's about to go down. Oh, shit's about to go down. I don't know. Everything they're doing is telling me like something's not right. Something bad's gonna happen. I was like, why are they cutting there? They're cutting there. Why are they cutting so fast? What's happening? I'm like, this isn't good.
Did you get to the episode yet where they have the dog fight with the dragons?
No, I haven't gotten there yet.
That's a good one.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was like, the wedding. I was like, something feels off about this wedding.
Oh, weddings are good.
I was like, this is, why are they focusing? This is too much. We're focusing on dancing. And then there's like cutting away to different people talking. And it's like, And then there was like, oh, here's the funeral where everyone who hates each other is forced into some place for the time being. It's like, oh, this is
an awkward scene.
This is not going to go well at all. Like, where everyone's done shit to each other. Then more shit happens. Yeah. You're like, oh my God. This is never going to end well for anybody. It's just, it's very intense. It's funny because it's basically like a soap opera in a lot of ways, but I don't know.
It really is, yeah.
It's well done. In the guise of, this is a lot of how things used to be, not obviously with dragons and shit, but the idea of lineage and bloodlines and who rules and challenging succession. Who's like a true born? Who's a bastard son? Who is this? Is it a male? Is it a female? Like all that shit very much took place in the
honoring
medieval ages.
Fucking tradition, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just recently rewatched The King on Netflix, and one part of that is like the idea of England and France not getting along, and what they were, one of the former king was trying to press, how the current king doesn't actually have the right to rule over France because of X, Y, and Z, because of this law and because of succession. So therefore we have a claim to this. I'm like, what an exhausting world to be a part of. And we have our own fun challenges nowadays, but that, like, the idea of like, you've got to fuck your aunt because we got to make sure that based on bloodlines, this is the best way to have the most claim to the throne. Right. And you're like, no thanks. Not unless she's stuck. Otherwise, your
aunt's stuck in the wash basin.
Yeah.
What are you doing, step bro?
You know what I mean?
And on that note,
everyone, I just want to say thanks so much for tuning in. This was so great. Had so much fun. We brought the energy, we brought the pain, we brought the laughs, we brought it all, And if you want to catch more of this, check us out on all our social medias at MindGap Podcast. Check us out on YouTube. youtube.com/mindgappodcast. If you're on YouTube checking us out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That shit is free. All the stuff we provide to you is free, and those likes, those subscribes, they mean a lot to us. Thank you for watching. Share this around with folks. It really helps us with just being able to create more free content for you. And if you're feeling generous, you want to throw some money our way, check out our merch, redbubble.com. Link is in the description down below, along with a link to our Patreon, patreon.com/mindgappodcast. And also join our Discord. Be part of the Mind Gap family. And link is in the description down below. Check that out. And be sure to check out Justin online as well.
On Instagram, you can follow me at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, all the places where you go and listen to quality podcasts, you will find us. So go ahead and find us on there. Subscribe, rate, review, like, anything else you can do, share. That's a big one. We love when you do that. It means the world to us. And then 2east8th.com and 2east8th on all social medias, and loveanimprovfilm.com and loveanimprovfilm on Instagram.
Yes. Well, with that being said, I want to say, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you so much.
Chat, thank you.
Listeners, thank you.
And you all have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.